This is the homework helper for Chapter 6, Section 2 in the 7th grade textbook entitled Fractions, Decimals, and Percents. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the first section here. As you can see, 1 through 8 all have the same directions, and those directions are to write each decimal as a percent. Well, to change a decimal into a percentage, we take and move the decimal 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. So that should be a pretty easy process for us to go through here. So let's go ahead and go through that. We'll start with question 1.17. In point 17, again, we wanted to go ahead and start off and move the decimal 2 times to the right. So that's going to change this from 0.17 into 17. And then we're going to add a percent sign after it, and we're going to end up with 17%. In number 2, 0.56, again, we're going to move the decimal 2 times to the right. So we're going to end up with 56, and then we're going to add a percent sign after it, 56%. In number 3, with 0.04, we're going to move the decimal 2 times to the right, which is going to change this into 4, and then add a percent sign after it, 4%. Now, number 4 is where we actually have to start thinking about what's happening here, because they're doing some different things here other than what we saw in 1, 2, and 3. Again, we're going to do the same thing, though. Move the decimal 2 times to the right. Now, this second jump to the right does not consist of a number. As you know by now, anytime we have an empty jump there, we always fill in with a 0. So that empty jump is going to fill in with a 0 and become 70. And then we're going to add a percent sign after it, 70%. So 0.7 is the same as 70%. And you'll continue doing the same thing in 5, 6, 7, and 8. Move the decimal 2 times to the right and add a percent sign. Let's go ahead and take a look at 9 through 16 now. In 9 through 16, we're asked to write each fraction as a percent. Well, as you remember from 6.1, the first direction there to change fraction into percent was actually to change it into a decimal. So what you want to do with each one of these questions to start is go ahead and divide. You're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So in number 9, you're going to do 13 divided by 40. 13 divided by 40 is 0.325. And now that you have it as a decimal, you're going to do exactly what we did in 1 through 4. You're going to go ahead and move that decimal 2 times to the right and add a percent sign. So I go 2 to the right and add a percent sign, and I end up with 32.5%. Now in number 10, where we've got 3/5, so I'm going to start off and I'm going to do 3 divided by 5, which is going to yield a result of 0.6. And now I'm going to take and move that decimal 2 times to the right and add a percent sign. Now, as we saw in question number 4, that second jump is an empty jump. So we have to fill it in with a number. And of course, that magic number is going to be 0. So that's going to change it to 60. And then I'm going to add a percent sign after it for 60%. In number 11, we've got 3/20. So I'm going to do 3 divided by 20. 3 divided by 20 is 0.15. And now that I have that, I'm going to take and move that decimal 2 times to the right and add a percent sign. So 0.15 becomes 15. Add a percent sign after it for 15%. And finally, number 12. Number 12, 5/12. So you're going to go ahead and do 5 divided by 12, which is 0.416 with the 6 repeating. And now that I have it in decimal form, I'm going to go ahead and move the decimal twice to the right and add a percent sign. So twice to the right is going to put it after the 1, so I'm going to have 41.6. And again, the 6 repeats, and I'm going to add a percent sign after it. 41 2/3%, or 41.6 repeating percent. And you'll go ahead and continue to do the same thing in 13 through 16, because the directions are the same. Divide to get a decimal, and then change that decimal into a percentage. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next set of questions there. The next set of questions is asking me to order the numbers from least to greatest. Now, as you can see, what they have there is they have quite a mix of choices there. They've got decimals, they've got fractions, they've got percents, and you've got to put them all in the same form in order to compare them. As you know, if you decide to put these all into fraction form, that means you're also going to have to do common denominator the whole way through here. So fraction is probably not going to be your top choice. That's probably actually going to be the most work. So that means you're going to be looking to choose between decimal and percent. Decimal is really the intermediate choice. It's the one that's in the middle kind of for everything, because fraction to decimal is one step, percent to decimal is one step. So I would recommend that you choose decimal here. So let's go ahead and take a look at 20, 21, and 22. Now, as you can see, for whatever reason, the printout does not have lines there, but there are still questions there. So we'll answer those 3 questions. Again, we're going to put these all in decimal form. So looking at number 20 with negative 0.35, 0.051, and negative 21%, the only one I have to change is negative 21%. Again, to go to a decimal, you're going to get rid of the percent sign and move that decimal 2 times to the left. So we have negative 0.21 there. All right, so now I'm going to put these guys in order from least to greatest, so smallest first. So the thing that's furthest away from 0, because we have negatives here, that's going to be this negative 0.35 first. And then, of course, the other negative's got to be next, because the other number is positive, and positives are always going to be bigger than negatives. So this thing that started off as negative 21% next, and then 0.051 is obviously the largest choice. Okay, in 21 we've got 1/9, 0.351, and 27%. So with 1/9, get that to a decimal, we're going to divide 1 divided by 9, and that's 0.1 repeating. And 27% also needs to be changed. Again, we're going to get rid of the percent sign, and I'm going to move the decimal 2 times to the left. So that's going to be 0.27. So I don't have any negatives here that make this one really obvious, so we're just putting these in order from least to greatest, considering the fact that they're all positive. Well, this one starts with a 1, though. This one starts with a 2, and this one starts with a 3, at least for the place right after the decimal. So that makes it really easy to put these in order, because we know 1, 2, 3 is in order from least to greatest. So 1/9 is going to go first, and then 27% next, since it starts with the 2, and then 0.351, since it starts with the 3, has to be the biggest. And now those are in order from least to greatest. All right, finally we'll take a look at number 22. Now we really don't need to change this one, and the reason why I think is fairly obvious. We can convert negative 4/5, but if you look at the other 2 choices, the other 2 choices happen to be positive, and that's a negative. Well, negative's always going to be smaller than any positive number. So we know that negative 4/5 has to be the first one, simply by the fact that it's negative and the other ones are positive. So now it's just a matter of me putting 0.08 and 0.8 in order. Well, after the decimal, this one starts with a 0. After the decimal, this one starts with an 8. Well, obviously 0 is smaller, so this one's going to be in the middle here. And 0.8 is going to be the largest. And you'll do the same thing in 17, 18, 19. Again, probably want to convert these all to the same form, probably a decimal, and then put them in order from least to greatest.